We'll be chatting to Shanaz Parak pretty shortly about Penny Appeal. She's the CEO there. In fact, they're looking at 5 years of Penny Appeal and just their history. It's quite fascinating. So we're looking at that. And then in our series about Know Your Mosques, we'll talk about the National Mosque of Uganda coming up before we wrap up the show. However, let's get to the feature we call My First Ramadan, where we speak to people and just get their thoughts of the first time they fully got into a month of Ramadan as someone who's embraced the Islamic faith. It could be this year, it could have been 30 years ago, whenever. We certainly want to know. So that's the case with Cindy Marshall. And she reverted to Islam, so effectively practiced as a Muslim about 6 years ago. So I understand, right? Cindy, appreciate your time. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, Juma Mubarak, and all the sort of the salutations that go your way. Thank you for your time.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah for having me.
Shukran. So, of course, we're talking about my first Ramadan. So let's talk about your first Ramadan and when was it?
6 years ago. And the first Ramadan I did, I was all alone. I didn't have friends. I didn't go to a masjid. It was all alone. So the first year, it was just fasting. I wasn't going to Tarawih. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So it was very different to what I'm doing now. And it's definitely, I've definitely grown a lot more over the years.
Yeah. But I gather, therefore, as many people tend to forget sometimes, embracing the Islamic faith is a journey. It's not a switch on, switch off in one day. So like you said, maybe year one you're doing certain things, or days 1 or 2 you're doing certain things, and then you grow stronger as the days progress, right? So let's go back. You're all alone and you did this few things. I mean, what was the experience like in that first Ramadan?
It was quite scary because you tend to feel, I know for me, I can only speak from my personal journey. You want to try and do everything, and you want to do everything perfectly, and it puts a lot of unnecessary stress. So my first year, it was, like trying to just concentrate on not eating anything or drinking anything, and trying to 3 or 5 prayers a day, even though I was working. You don't know what prayers to do, and the people that you do see, are you doing this? Are you doing that? And I had to take a step back and think, it's a journey. So if you improve, whether it's every day, every month, or every year, that's all that counts. You can't do everything perfectly first time round.
Absolutely, yeah. But you also said you were all alone. Now, I mean, you were physically all alone, but were you also all alone in terms of actual support? I mean, did you have somebody on the other line to guide you along in that first Ramadan?
No, I was all alone. Fortunately, within my second or third year, I met a wonderful family, and ever since then, they've been guiding me. I go to iftar there. I spend every Eid with them and the family. But since the first one, I've also started going to the masjid. I've met people. You have friends. I've been doing a lot of online learning. There's amazing classes online. So yeah, it's very different now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. And where do you live, Cindy? In which area?
In Westville, Durban.
So in Durban, okay, fine. What about? I mean, it does get me to ask you the obvious question. Then, if that was your first Ramadan 6 years ago, and you were effectively on your own, literally and without support either, and yet that was your faith now that you had embraced, right? Explain the circumstances that got you to that first Ramadan. Meaning, how did you encounter the Islamic faith, and what drew you to that faith? Before that first Ramadan.
I always say the faith finds me because I was doing personal training in a gym. It was predominantly there was a lot of Muslim ladies, there was a lot of Hindus, a lot of mixed cultures and religions. So for me, in order for me to understand why you can't do certain things or why the ladies can't train in front of the men or anything, I started to learn a little bit about each faith or religion. But the more I learned about Islam, the more I wanted to learn. So I went to a class of once a week for about 2 years, and then got to the decision where it was something that I wanted to do. But there had to be a big lifestyle change. So it was, you know, you either you're going to do this or you're going to sit on the fence. And I had a very good friend that said to me, you've got to make a decision now. Are you going to do it or are you going to keep sitting on the fence? And that's when I made the decision to reverse.
Yeah, and I can imagine, and for people like myself who are born into the faith, you don't have to make that decision. We don't really have an idea the the juggling act and how daunting it may be. Even if you're seeing the light, even when you see the light, it still is daunting. As you would have experienced. So I think sometimes there's a lack of empathy for the journey and the sacrifices and the major calls that someone who's new to the Islamic faith makes.
Hello?
Yeah, did you hear that? I was saying sometimes we unaware
Right.
of the major calls that someone like you who's new to the Islamic faith makes.
I used to see it as people say sacrifices, but it's not really, I don't see it as sacrifices. I see it as growth. I mean, I come from a background of bodybuilding and I competed internationally and provincially. I gave all of that up. Your family had difficulty. My dad didn't talk to me for 4 years. You lose friends, but you gain a lot of more friends, true friends. So I feel it's how you look at it. You can either look at it as sacrificing or as growth in something new.
Yeah, yeah. And now, I mean, fast forwarding 6 years, you said, I mean, you spend time with a family every year during this month of Ramadan, so you break fast together. You're part of a broader community, and that means that your whole your lived experience now of Islam in Ramadan, Islam out of Ramadan has changed considerably from what happened 6 years ago, right?
Sorry, you disappeared there?
I was saying your experience now, 6 years later, of Islam in Ramadan and even Islam out of Ramadan is very different to your experience 6 years ago.
Very different. I'm now reading my 5 salahs a day. I'm reading Quran a day. It's a totally different experience. It's more peaceful. It's not. I've learned not to put pressure on, to do things as I go gradually. So if I'm the same person I was 6 years ago while fasting, not at all. I'm a lot more relaxed. I approach things differently, and I take it in my stride.
Yeah, and I mean you're bigger and better for that, and we're certainly grateful that you've shared that experience with us. Sunny, let me leave it at that. Appreciate your time. Thank you. So let me wish you, Juma Mubarak and belated Ramadan Mubarak, and certainly in advance Eid Mubarak when that comes up in 2 weeks' time. And long may your journey, your fabulous journey in the Islamic faith continue and make you a better person, and those that connect with you and around you as well, inshallah.
Jazakallah for having me.
Thank you so much. There you are, my first Ramadan. Yeah, with Cindy Marshall. Who else should we be talking to in this feature called My First Ramadan? You tell me. We'll talk about penny appeal in a moment.